Hi everyone, I'm Alicia.
I'm Michael.
And we're the Gaughans.
Today, we are watching another YouTube video.
Mm-hmm.
This one sounds super interesting. 13 etiquette rules in the U.S. that surprise tourists.
I'm really curious to see what makes the list. I know like when we traveled to Ireland, we were like really big on making sure that we knew what etiquette over there Americans typically like, what mistakes they typically make. So it'll be interesting to me because like I think about it like us Americans need to figure out how to act in other countries.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to think about the reverse.
Right.
And like other people being concerned about how to act when they visit here because I feel like we're so relaxed and like
that was my thought too.
Easygoing.
And the way I feel about it, and this will be interesting what's on here, is I feel like a lot of people get more worried about etiquette in the US than they actually need to be.
Yeah.
And a lot of things, it really doesn't matter. Or to an extent. I mean,
I would say probably like one that I expect to be on the list would be tipping. Because I know that we handle tipping differently than the rest of the world does.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that tipping will be on the list.
Yeah.
But I would say...
We'll talk about it when it comes up.
Yeah.
If it does come up.
I would say other than that, I don't know what the other 12 are going to be.
Yeah, I know. I genuinely can't think of like typical American etiquette. I mean, I guess I know I've heard like we're big on personal space. Like don't come and stand right in my face and talk to me because I absolutely agree with that. Even people that are your close friends.
Right.
Don't do that. That's awkward. That's it's just weird.
Yeah. Personal space, depending on what country you're from, because I know there are other countries that value personal space as well.
I would think all of them would. That's what's weird.
Yeah. And then I have heard like we're friendlier and more talkative to strangers here.
Yeah.
Which I
don't know that I would call it etiquette, but I do think that's
kind of
a true stereotype of America.
Yeah, it is definitely true. I'm wondering if like
being outgoing and friendly
and talkative would be on the list. Like, don't come off as standoffish and cold.
Right.
Wonder if that'll be on there.
I don't know because there's a lot of Americans that are standoffish and cold.
Yeah, so absolutely.
Let's go.
Here we go.
So our parents teach us to be polite, but what you learned as a kid doesn't always apply when you're in another part of the world. So if you're heading to the U.S. anytime soon, I've got some tips for you on what we Americans consider the rules of etiquette.
Let's hear it.
Some stuff that's totally okay in the U.S. that other countries might consider rude.
Okay.
Let's start off with my favorite, food etiquette.
Food etiquette.
Number 1. Feel free to ask for some condiments.
Oh, yeah.
If you're eating out and your food is tasting a little bland, it's completely fine to ask for salt, pepper, or sauces to add a little zing to your meal. I know some places in Europe see it as an insult to the chef if you start adding a little spice of your own. But don't worry about that in the U.S.
No.
Nobody's going to be offended or give you weird looks if you ask the waiter for a bottle of ketchup.
I will say, with the exception of like very high-end restaurants.
Yeah, I was gonna say we have been to one restaurant where it was supposed to be a really high-end, like really, really good restaurant. And we went there and the meat was so bland. It was literally like they had put a slab of meat on the grill. He can't remember what I'm talking about. It was like they had literally just put a slab of meat on the grill and like no salt, no pepper, no anything. It was so bland. And so we asked if they had any sauce and the waiter was like, no, we don't do that. So like we've only had that happen to us once that I can think of.
What town was it in?
Bozeman.
Okay,
Montana.
I thought that's what you were going to say.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I have
the restaurant was downtown.
Yeah.
And that is all the more I will say. Because I love Bozeman, Montana, and our downtown restaurants, and most of them are fantastic. Yeah. But anyways.
But for the most part, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ask for whatever you want.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially, I mean, come to America and ask for ranch.
Yeah.
You're in America. Not all places have ranch.
And don't put ranch on everything. That is weird.
Though a lot of Americans do that.
Yeah, but it is weird.
Ketchup. Even if you're at someone's house visiting, They won't see it as a jab to their culinary skills either.
Oh, yeah, not at all.
No.
Some just like it spicier than others.
Yeah.
Some like it hot.
Always tip. Okay, well,
not always
maybe
everywhere.
Not always, but
okay.
It's a rare occurrence if you don't tip your waiter, hairdresser, cab driver, and so on. And only if the service was really awful. But even then, a lot of Americans feel guilty about not leaving any tip.
That's true.
The rule is 15 to 20% of the bill. So get ready to do some mental math each time you eat out. I've heard that tipping isn't a thing in some countries, especially in East Asia, where restaurant staff always provide good service no matter what. But in the U.S., it's simply a sign of gratitude that your waiter did a good job, even though they're probably tired, their feet hurt, and they've got a bunch of other tables to tend to.
Okay, the way those servers are reaching out is
creepy.
so creepy.
Okay.
It is not like that.
No.
Wow.
Yeah. Please, sir.
Yeah.
May I have some tip?
They are not like that.
Yeah, to touch on the tipping thing, I've watched so many videos of non-Americans wanting to visit America, and this stresses them out to no end.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, do not stress about tips.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a deal. You don't have to have like an exact amount.
No.
Yeah, and it's... The other thing with tipping, as a lot of people know, at least in the U.S., is that because of the way our tax system is set up, and basically a restaurant can hire people and pay them less than minimum wage if there's an expected tip to happen. Right. So what they do is they can take the expected tip amount that they're going to get, and they can lower their minimum wage so that when it's added to the tips, they're at least crossing the minimum wage. They can over their salaries. So their salary plus the expected tips will make them at least meet minimum wage.
Yeah.
So that's why tipping is a big deal, is because if they're not getting the expected tips, they're making below minimum wage in most cases.
Right.
And that is not everywhere. That is mainly just in restaurants.
Yeah. That's definitely a thing mostly for restaurants. I would say, like, when we go get coffee, because I've been a barista, I typically tip $1 per drink.
Yeah. Yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
But I know a lot of people tip less than that to the coffee barista. Like, that is a generous tip for a coffee.
Yep. Especially with the price of coffee now.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
We don't go get coffee very often.
A lot of people at coffee shops will tip whatever their change would be.
Yeah, that's
so to make it a round
common.
$1. And that's again, totally accepted.
Yes.
So that's not something you need to stress about. Is how much do I tip? Just round off the $1 at a coffee shop.
Right. Some people will throw in an extra $1.
As far as I know, most coffee shops are not paying below minimum wage.
Correct. They're paying minimum wage there. The tips are a bonus there.
Another reason tips are a big deal is there are, I don't remember what it's called, but there's times where like the server has to pay out tips to the rest of the restaurant staff.
Yeah.
And if they don't get a tip, they still have to pay out of pocket. And I do not know how this is legal, and it drives me insane that they can actually lose money by not getting tips and having to pay out to the other restaurant staff.
Restaurants, I feel like, are the big one. Yeah. We've never lived in a place where we take cabs. In fact, I don't know if I've ever taken a cab. So I personally,
my only cab experience I really have is in Ireland, and you don't tip there. Kind of do whatever your heart feels is right when you're tipping.
Honestly, that's how Americans do it.
Yeah.
As far as like when you don't leave a tip, that is like, if you don't leave a tip, it does communicate something to your server.
Yes.
If you don't tip at a restaurant, you're telling the server they did a bad job.
The other thing with restaurants and knowing how much to tip, it's getting more and more common, which I love, for restaurants to have down at the bottom of the receipt a few tip levels based on what your total amount is. So it's like this percentage, but it'll be like, 12%, 15, or usually it's 15, 18, and 20% or something like that. And it'll tell you what the tip amount is. Yeah. So you don't have to try and figure it out in your head.
Yeah. I will tell you, though, I do understand being stressed about the whole tipping thing and not understanding how to do it, because when we went to Ireland, we read a lot about tipping culture in Ireland because we wanted to make sure we did it right there. And then we felt nervous that we were messing it up while we were there.
Yeah. And as an American, it feels so weird not to tip.
But we did still tip in Ireland because I can't not.
Don't stress about tipping. It's not that big of a deal.
No.
3. Clean up after yourself at fast food restaurants. Of course, if you're going to the States, I imagine a lot of your eating out will be done in fast food joints. You'll see a lot more of those than your traditional sit and be served by a waiter types of places. But anyways, if you're finished eating and your tray is now full of wrappers, used napkins, and empty boxes, take it to the trash can and dispose of the garbage yourself.
Maybe not.
I don't know why they did glass breaking there.
Staff for that. It's pretty much always the cashier that needs to find time between ringing people up to go clean up the dining area.
Yeah.
So we try to help them out a bit and clean up after ourselves.
Yeah, that's pretty common. There are fast food restaurants where they'll have somebody just kind of walk around and clean stuff up, but it is expected that you just clean up your own stuff at fast food restaurants. That's for sure.
Absolutely, that's why they have the area, like the busing areas, for you to take your own stuff
You
too.
get the trash, and then you set your tray on top.
If they have like traditional dishes, then they have a tub for you to put dishes and silverware in. Like Panera would have that.
Yep, true.
Yep.
4. Open gifts immediately in front of the giver. Now, I was pretty surprised when I found out that opening a gift as soon as you get it is considered bad manners in certain parts of the world. I guess some cultures see it as kind of greedy when you start tearing into a present right away. In the US, it's pretty much the opposite. Open it as soon as you get it, right in front of the giver. That way, they can see your reaction and you can thank them right there on the spot. There are also no rules about using both hands or a certain hand when giving or receiving a gift. Just grab it and open it already.
Yes and
that's
no.
absolutely mixed on that.
It depends on the setting and situation.
Yeah, for the most part, when I'm given a gift, that's not like a birthday or Christmas or whatever gift. If it's just a gift being given to you at a random time, I'll usually thank the person, and then they'll let me know to open it right then. It's like, you can go ahead and open it now. Yeah. That's usually what happens.
Yeah.
I don't usually just like tear into it.
I mean,
or you can ask, like, you want me to open this now?
Yeah, you could definitely ask. Nobody would be offended if you asked.
Yeah.
I would say, like, if I'm going to go meet a friend at a coffee shop and they walk in with a gift bag for me, I'm going to open it up and see what's inside and say thank you immediately. Like, that is normal.
I feel like this is a weird one to have on the list. Like, I don't think this is even that big of a deal, and it's not something that happens very often, so...
No, I mean, it must be a bigger deal. My guess would be that it's a bigger deal in certain other countries.
Yeah.
For it to be on this list, but...
Yeah. This is one of those ones I don't feel like there's any actual rule or etiquette. It's just...
No. Like,
if you're comfortable opening it in front of somebody, open it in front of somebody. If you're not, then just don't. Yeah. And they'll let you know if they're like, oh, go ahead and open it now.
Well, and even like, you're not going to do Christmas on Christmas Day with friends. You're going to be with your family on that day. I mean, not that you can't have like a friend's Christmas if nobody has family around or whatever. But typically, like, if your friend is giving you a Christmas present, it's not on Christmas Day, it's before or after or whatever. So if it's before, you could definitely be like, should I save it for Christmas or do you want me to open it now? Like, that's a time when I would definitely ask.
Yeah.
If it's for your birthday and it's on your birthday, it goes both ways. Like, typically, if somebody's having a birthday party, they do have a present opening time.
Right.
But I've definitely been to birthday parties also where they don't open the presents with everyone there. And both are considered completely fine and acceptable.
Yeah. I'm guessing this applies more to, like, if you're having a party or something at your house, just a random party at your house, and people bring gifts or like housewarming or whatever party, and then you would typically open that then, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, because a lot of times the gifts that people are bringing are essentially meant for use. And so, like
wine, bottles of wine or whatever for that night.
Right. Yeah. So it would be like, oh, let's open this up. Like, that kind of a thing. So, yeah, typically if somebody's giving you a gift, it is fine to open it immediately.
It's just a weird one to have on the list. It's not a big deal at all either way.
Number 5, be ready for small talk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How about that game last night? Whew. When's this weather gonna let up already? Yes, Americans love small talk, so don't be surprised if a stranger just starts chatting with you while you're waiting in line or sharing an elevator. It could be sports, the weather, traffic, anything just to have a short, light conversation. I can't really say why we like talking to people we don't even know.
We don't do religion or politics.
I mean, if you're sharing a space with someone, are you just going to totally ignore their presence? That'd be awkward. Oh yeah, and you'll get asked how you're doing a lot, even by strangers. It's usually waiters and cashiers that'll greet you with a, "Hi, how are you today?" Just answer with "Fine, and you?" even if you're not exactly having a fantastic day.
I will say I work in a customer service position, and I mean, I definitely will have people respond like, oh, I'm not doing very well or whatever. And that's fine too. Like if you genuinely want to share, we're totally open to that. It's honestly refreshing sometimes to have a genuine conversation versus common niceties.
Yeah. I've heard people say like when Americans ask how you're doing, they're not actually wondering. And I find that absolutely not true.
Yeah.
Like, I genuinely want to know how you're doing if I ask how you're doing.
I will say what they said here is, like, the majority of interactions that you have. Like, typically, if somebody you don't know asks how you're doing, you generally do just say, fine, good, and you ask how they're doing as well. But it's not, I mean, if you want to share, like, that's welcome. We would absolutely love to have a genuine conversation about how you're doing.
If you were just out in a storm getting rained on and you slipped on a banana peel and walked in and somebody asked how you're doing, tell that story.
Yeah, seriously. We would love, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Are you okay? Yeah. That sounds horrible. But yeah, as far as like the conversations with random strangers, absolutely. That 100%.
Yeah.
I will say it does depend on who you are. Like he doesn't do that.
I don't start engagement.
Yeah.
I'll small talk if somebody talks to me, but I'm not a social person in that way, so...
I talk to people all the time.
Yeah. That's why I keep her around.
That's right.
Deflect conversations to her.
Yeah. But genuinely, like, if I see somebody out and I like their outfit, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I love that. Where did you get that? Or if their hair looks really pretty, I'm like, oh my goodness, I love your hair. I love giving random people that I don't know compliments because I think that it's just a kind thing that brightens their day. Mm-hmm. So I genuinely, when I go out, I look for people to give random compliments to because I just think it's a fun, nice thing to do. But also, like, we've had some genuinely awesome conversations with random strangers.
Yep.
And
it's usually if you're connected in a situation, either like waiting in line for a long time or just something happening while you're there. Yeah.
Yeah.
You just have a conversation about it.
Right. Or even like going to Costco and getting a cart and it was raining really hard out and somebody else is there getting a cart. It's like,
there'll be comments.
Man, this weather today is crazy. Like, we talk to each other.
Yep.
Everyone, it's almost like we act like everyone is familiar. Not that they're all your friends, but just like, it's fine to talk to anyone.
And don't feel like you have to have some super deep conversation with somebody. And if you're not into small talk, that's totally fine too. Yeah. You can just give little one-word answers to things and people will probably get the hint that you're not wanting to talk, and that's totally fine, and they'll move on.
Absolutely.
They won't be offended.
And there's times where it's raining cats and dogs and I go get a shopping cart and the person there doesn't say anything to me and I'm not offended. Like,
no, that's what I mean. Like, it's again, not a rule by any means.
No, but we are more friendly than most people, so do expect that we will talk to you.
Yes, there'll probably be comments, especially if you have an accent. You may end up having a lot of questions about where you're from, and then people trying to connect with where you're from. And
I went there on vacation one time. Oh, I've always wanted to go there.
Yeah, do you know so and so?
What? Yeah. What's the weather like this time of year?
Yeah.
So random comments. Be prepared.
Yep.
Number 6, expect a lot of smiles.
Yeah.
First of all, let me bust the myth that Americans constantly walk around smiling ear to ear.
That's
Nobody
creepy.
does that, because that'd be weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, if you're sharing a space and making small talk with a stranger, or maybe someone opens or holds the door for you, they'll smile at you.
Oh yeah,
and
smile and a nod.
If you do the same.
Yeah.
Cashiers and waiters also greet you with a big, friendly smile. I read somewhere that this goes back to our early history as a country built by people who all spoke different languages. They didn't understand each other all that well, so they just smiled.
Weird.
Yeah.
But I still think we just like to be open and kind. Respect the bubble.
Yep.
Please.
Now, here's a pretty funny thing about Americans. We're friendly, we love to chat, but we also really like our personal bubble. The unspoken rule is to stand
Maybe that's why Americans are so loud
when you're talking with someone.
We like to talk but
We're
from a
also
distance.
not too big on touching during conversation, because this can be misconstrued as a way of flirting. Of course, the rule doesn't apply with close friends and family, but still, even then, most Americans aren't too touchy-feely. Number 8.
Yeah, totally agree with the bubble.
Definitely no kissing. I know in countries...
I've absolutely met people from Italy who have come up and give me the kiss on the cheek, and it doesn't bother me. It's definitely not something I'm used to.
No.
But I understand that it's their culture, and I totally accept that too.
That.
It's like Spain and France. People often greet each other with a peck or two on the cheek. There might be some Americans who greet the European way, but overall, we don't kiss each other as a way to say hi.
No.
Again, my personal bubble is my sanctuary. So don't come in it with puckered lips ablazing. It's best to just say hi, smile, and keep it at that.
Handshakes.
Number 9. Being loud is usually
or
okay.
Fist bumps.
The stereotype of the loud American tourist might ring true most of the time, since we tend to project our voices, even out in public. It's not that we're yelling all the time, but I'd say we certainly speak louder than people in Europe or Asia. I've gotten some friendly reminder to take it down a few decibels when visiting my friends abroad. But hey, if you're ever in the States, feel free to laugh out loud or get particularly animated while telling a joke. But of course, there's a time and place for that. You still have to hush down in places like libraries. Shh. Number 10.
Yeah, I will say too, with this, I just thought of, I don't know how many times in elementary school I was told to speak loud and enunciate.
Yeah.
Speak loud and enunciate when you're talking. Speak loud. And so that is something, like, all through childhood I hear was to speak loud and enunciate.
Yeah, that is true.
So.
Speak loud, speak clearly, enunciate, project.
Yeah. All through elementary school, I'm told that. So I guess it makes sense that we kind of grow up with that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Indirectness is politeness. So here's the thing about Americans.
Indirectness is
no,
politeness.
I don't want or like that is seen as pretty rude. But if an American gives you a polite, no thanks, I'd rather not, or I don't think that's the best idea, that doesn't mean that they're on the fence about it. No means no, even if it's said indirectly and super politely. It's frowned upon to try and convince someone to do something or change their mind because it's seen as pushy and disrespectful to their wishes. Number 11.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like I would need examples of that to know exactly what he's talking about.
I can't say that this is like a problem. I will say that is how Americans tell you no.
I mean, yeah, but I don't see no thank you as much different than no, I don't like that.
Right.
I don't know.
Like if you offer me something, I'll probably say like, oh, thanks, but no thanks.
Right.
And that means no. Like I'm trying to be polite about it.
But I will say, they talk about not being pushy or not trying to convince them. I don't know how many times I say no to something and you get an, are you sure? That's a common thing in America.
Yeah,
because
like, or that is really common. Or even like if somebody's offering you like something they baked or made and you're like, oh, thanks, but no thanks, or no thank you. Like, are you sure? It's really good.
Yeah.
And then like people will totally do that and you're like, okay, I'll try some.
Or you can absolutely say, no, I don't really like that.
No, I'm trying to watch my weight, or no, I'm not feeling like whatever your reasoning is, it's fine.
Yeah, I don't agree with that one at all.
Yeah.
I thought
that was a weird one.
I think direct answers are fine, and I feel like we do that often.
Yeah, well,
we may start with a no thank you. Right.
I think what he was saying is like if an American says no to you in an indirect way to recognize that they're saying no to you, and not to be pushy.
Indirect was saying no thank you.
Yeah, and I don't feel like that's.
I don't feel like people would take that as. I feel like that's
really common.
Yeah. I don't know about that one.
Sit in the backseat of a cab.
Yes.
Yes.
Now this is something interesting I found out about Australia and New Zealand. There, it's considered rude to take the back seat of a cab because it's almost like you're showing that you expect to be chauffeured by someone who's lower than you.
Well, not lower than you, but I mean, that is kind of...
In fact,
you're paying them to drive you around.
Seat because the driver might give you a weird look
That's
otherwise.
Awkward to hop in the front seat.
It's not an elitist thing, and you can still make friendly small talk from the back.
Yeah.
Just respect the driver's personal bubble, that's all.
I would say even like in an Uber or a Lyft, they expect you to sit in the back seat. And it's not a status thing. Again, like he was saying too, it is almost a comfort thing. Like it's very familiar to sit in the front seat.
Yeah.
And if that's not someone that you know, like you're going to sit in the back seat. And honestly, like depending on the driver, it might honestly make them nervous to have you sit in the front seat with them, like, why is this person sitting up here? They're supposed to sit in the back. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
It would be weird. So yeah, sit in the back of an Uber, Lyft, taxi.
Unless obviously if the seat is needed, then obviously you can
right. Like if there's more people than the back seat will hold, then
yeah
somebody's gonna sit up front, and that's obviously
I don't
expected.
know if do taxis even allow you to sit in the front seat? Like I never see people sit in the front seat, and they have the partition.
Yeah, again, not being an avid taxi rider.
I know.
I'm not positive on that. I feel like in shows and movies, I feel like such a, like, this is what I always hear people from other countries say. Well, in shows and movies,
is it really like that? In American movies, I see it this way.
Right.
yeah.
I feel, but again.
That's the way we are with the cities.
Yeah.
The big cities.
I do feel like I've seen where, like, the back seat will be full of people and somebody does sit up front.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
I feel like I've seen that once or twice, maybe.
I just know taxis have the partitions that separate them from the back seat, and that's a safety thing.
Right, and they want you in the back seat.
And they want you in the back seat for safety reasons, yeah.
Right.
Because I know taxis are something that at least used to be commonly robbed.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yep.
Number 12. Feel free to keep your shoes on inside.
Don't do that.
No.
I had a friend from Russia.
I've heard this so many times that Americans wear their shoes inside, and that's common.
Yeah.
No.
There are very, very rare circumstances where I will keep my shoes on inside somebody's house.
Yeah, and it's only if they're, like, demanding you leave your shoes on, or, like, if they commonly have their shoes on so their floors are dirty, that's one thing, but...
I genuinely always look at the homeowner's feet.
Yeah.
Like, I walk in and I look at their feet. If their shoes are on, I wear my shoes. If their shoes are off, I take mine off.
Yeah, I almost always offer to take my shoes off either way. Like,
yeah.
Oh, you need me to take my shoes off? And they'll be like, oh, no, leave them on. But I can't stand being inside with my shoes on.
Because your shoes are dirty from all the stuff outside, and then you're going to walk through their house and... No.
Yeah, I've heard this so many times. And I mean, I don't know. Pretty much everyone I know, you take your shoes off at their house.
Yeah.
So
like the one
unless
exception,
we know,
I would
like,
say,
the minority of people.
Yeah. The one exception I would say is, like, the small group that we go to.
Yeah.
Everybody wears their shoes there, but that is probably the only person whose house I walk into and leave my shoes on.
Yeah.
Because I just, you take
I
your
also,
shoes off.
again, feel like it's just because the small group is happening, though, because they do have all their shoes right inside the door, but they're wearing their shoes during small group.
Yeah.
But I feel like they do normally take their shoes off in the house, but because of small group, they just keep them on.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I 100% disagree with this one.
Yeah, take your shoes off.
If you visit us, please take your shoes off.
If you come to my house, please take your shoes off.
Exactly. That's what I mean, yes. If you're visiting us specifically, take your shoes off. And at most people, at least, I mean, I would say 90% of the people I know, when I go to their house, it's shoes off to go inside.
Yeah.
So I've never understood this one being...
I will say, I know some cultures take their shoes off outside the door. We take our shoes off just inside.
Yeah.
Right inside the door, take your shoes off.
Yep.
Why is it that in all American movies, people are walking around their house with their shoes on?
Because
it's
a movie?
I just told them straight up. Because that's what we do.
No, it's not.
Now, there are plenty of families here that don't have a no shoes indoors policy, although I'd say the majority don't. So here's a good rule of etiquette to live by if you ever visit an American's home. When you walk in, ask if you should take your shoes off at the door.
Yeah.
If they say, nah, you're okay, don't feel bad about walking around their house in your shoes.
Unless your shoes are muddy.
I know it seems bizarre to most people around the world, but it's A-okay here.
If your shoes like that, absolutely take them off.
If your shoes look like that, you can take them off outside.
Yeah.
13.
Please do.
It's okay to keep it casual. Overall, I'd say the biggest thing about Americans is that most of us are pretty casual and laid back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you're ever out and about in the U.S., you'll see a lot of people running errands in sweatpants, gym shorts, baseball caps, and even their PJs.
Yep.
But it's not just about clothes either. We often keep it on a first-name basis, even with people that are generally referred to more formally in other countries. For example, most of the time your boss is just Jim or Janet, not Mr. or Mrs. Jones.
Yep.
You might start off more formally, but I guarantee you that that person will say right off the bat, hey, call me Jim. Now, what would be weird is if their
Teachers are the exception to that.
Teachers, doctors.
Yeah. But even doctors, depending on the doctor, some doctors do go by their first name.
Yeah.
Doctor and then their first name. So you still give them their title, but...
My boss is a doctor, and we call him Dr. So-and-so.
Isn't Jim. Maybe it's Howard or Benny. Then what you say is, hey, call me a cab. So, are any of these Americanisms different or the same in your country?
I would say several of these are different in my country, which is America, so...
Yeah.
I think, again, there's so many of these, and I think if you're somebody who's wanting to visit America, just don't stress about these things. We are, like the last one said, we are casual.
Yeah.
And so we don't stress about etiquette. Etiquette is something that Americans really... And, I mean, there's a lot of countries that make fun of us because we don't have etiquette.
I will say, like, another thing to keep in mind, too, is that you probably have an accent if you're not from America.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And we can hear that. And so we're going to understand.
Yes.
And so we're not going to hold you to the same standard we would another American.
Yeah.
We'll be like, oh, that was interesting. Like, you know, and that's genuinely what our perception will be is, oh, that's interesting. I mean, I know, like, when I was in high school, I worked in a couple of restaurants, and I know I would hear servers say, man, I hate it when people from other countries come in because they never leave a tip. But it's not like they were like, that person was so rude and horrible, and I hope I never see them again.
It's that they know they don't know.
They understood they're from another country, and you don't leave a tip in your country, so you don't know to leave a tip here. Like,
yeah, it's typically not going to be a personal thing against you if you don't follow these etiquette rules.
Right. And it's like, I would say that that's probably our biggest etiquette rule, and even then it's like, they're like, oh, man, people from other countries. But it's not like and I know I said the word hate, like, but that's just, like, that is what they would say, but it's not like they're like, genuinely like, oh, I hate people, you know, like, it's not like malicious, it's just, oh, man, like, it's more of like oh, bummer kind of a thing. Well, yeah,
you may hear some Americans talk like that. That's not typical though.
But I'm just saying, like, they would say like, oh, I hate when people from other countries come in, but it's not like they're like genuinely like, I hate people from other countries. It was more of like an oh, bummer kind of a statement. So yeah, I would say we're gonna know you're from another country, and we're just gonna accept that, be accepting of that, and welcome you in, because again, we're friendly and we're casual, so we'll just be excited that you're here and want to learn more about your customs and cultures and
to go how you do things. That whole friendly, casual, and small talk, you can ask an American, like, if you're at a place and be like, you're not sure if you tip there or not, you can ask them, hey, do I tip here? And they'll honestly typically say either yes or no. We don't typically take tips. You'll go to, and you know, one of the big things is like fast food restaurants. You don't tip at fast food restaurants.
Right. Yeah. Don't tip at fast food restaurants.
If you were to ask, if you go to a restaurant and you're not sure, they'll tell you no. And some will even tell you it's against their company policy to accept tips. Yeah. Which is common. Yeah. In a lot of places, that they can't even accept tips according to company policy. Yeah. So absolutely ask if you have any questions about etiquette rules in the U.S. We have no problem letting you know. And it's not like we're going to make fun of you for not knowing. No,
and nobody's going to try and, like, pull one over on you either.
Not no one, but the likelihood of that happening is very low.
Very low. I mean, you can definitely even ask, like, another patron of the restaurant. Like, if somebody came up to me and was like, hey, I'm not from around here, should I leave a tip here or not? I'd be like, oh, and I would just totally help you.
Yeah, like, absolutely.
And I wouldn't think that was weird at all. So, yeah, you can definitely ask for help.
Yeah.
Ask what you should do.
Yep, absolutely. But don't stress. Anyone. Just come. Have fun. Yeah. Don't stress about it.
If you want to know where you should go, reach out to us. We would love giving tips on places to go, things to try, restaurants to eat at, places to avoid.
Traveled a lot.
We have traveled a lot. Yeah. So feel free to reach out and ask for tips and suggestions. We will love that.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was interesting. Let us know in the comments if any of these are, like, really shocking to you, or if you have any interesting etiquette tips from where you're from, even if it's within the U.S., because, I mean, we are regionally different around the U.S., so there's etiquette rules in the South compared to other places like the Midwest or East Coast. Like the video, if you like the video. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications to make sure you get notified when we have new videos coming out. And we'll see you next time.
See you next time.